Rare Gem Productions proudly presents Entrepreneurially Thinking. Entrepreneurially Thinking is a presentation of BioSTL and CET, the Center for Emerging Technologies, changing the way you view new ventures and activating your entrepreneurial mindset, empowering you to create new pathways for business success in the St. Louis marketplace and beyond. Here's your hosts, Cheryl and Christy. Now let's get thinking entrepreneurially.
Welcome back to the Entrepreneurially Thinking Podcast. I'm Christy Maxfield.
And I'm Dr. Cheryl Watkins-Moore. As you guys know, I lead our STEM inclusion initiative for BioSTL for our region. Hey, lady.
How are you?
Doing well. I think today it's going to be some interesting stuff, huh?
Well, you know, we always try to line up some interesting stuff, so I'm glad you agree.
I think we're going to hit it out the ballpark today.
Oh, the sports puns are starting already. You should know that's a foreshadow. Oh, my goodness. And, you know, if you've listened at all, you know sports is not our forte.
No.
So I can't guarantee that the puns and the references are going to get any better from here. But in any case, we're thrilled that you're listening, glad that you're back, and very thankful to our sponsors, CET and BioSTL, for their continued support.
Yes.
And you may have heard that we're also now working with ETHINKSTL to boost our visibility through their platform. And so we want to encourage you to check out our sponsors, check out our website, and check out ETHINKSTL so that you can find out more about what we're doing and what they're up to, all the wonderful stories and folks that they're featuring as well.
Yes. So wherever you are, we want to be.
Absolutely. So use the hashtags ETHINKSTL, eThink Podcast, stay listening. Find us on iTunes, Spreaker, Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagrams, all the stuff.
All the grams.
Well, you know, like we like to put S's on things.
All the Instas.
Because that makes us seem hip and
We're
cool
on
like
the
the
Googles,
kids.
too.
We're on the Googles. You can find us on the Googles. But in any case.
So I'm going to throw out this hint.
You know, it's spring.
It's spring. Dun, 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 dun.
Okay, so that's the closest you've ever come to singing on the podcast.
And I'm never singing.
Okay.
So, baseball. It is America's favorite pastime. Never mind the fact that St. Louis is home to the team with 11 World Series wins, the St. Louis Cardinals, and the best fans in baseball.
Yes,
now,
honey.
I
know you're a Chicago girl, but you still got to say it. You still got to say it.
I'm a White Sox girl, not a Cubs girl.
We're not talking about that.
We're not talking about that.
No, I'm bringing out the jersey. We're not talking about that.
So one local entrepreneur, through trials and tribulations, decided to reinvent an American classic. What is it? The baseball bat.
Yes, indeed.
Yes. Grady Phelan has created a better bat that boasts better performance, a better grip, and reduced hand injuries.
That's so cool.
I thought I was going to say something else, huh? Better something else, right? Ran out of better, so here we go.
It's all good.
So many Major League Baseball players have broken their hand bone due to the poor design of the knob on the bottom of most baseball bats.
That sounds painful.
I didn't know that. That's really interesting. So the ergonomic shape of the Pro XR bat, designed by our guest today, prevents this particular injury and does so much more. So y'all go get your peanuts and your Cracker Jacks for this one, folks. Y'all need to stay listening.
BioSTL is a proud founding sponsor of the Entrepreneurially Thinking Podcast. We want you to know about all the great things they are up to, including the BioSTL STEM, Entrepreneur Inclusion Initiative, and Fundamentals Program for early stage would-be entrepreneurs in the life sciences in St. Louis. You can learn more about all of BioSTL's programs by visiting biostl.org. And for your renewed and continuing support, BioSTL, we say thank you.
Purpose First Advisors is proud to support the Entrepreneurially Thinking Podcast. Purpose First works with entrepreneurs and the organizations that support them to accelerate business formation, scaling, and transformational growth. For more information about how to work with Purpose First Advisors on business model validation, financial modeling, core messaging, or other growth and profitability strategies, visit purposefirstadvisors.com.
I'm Grady Phelan, president and founder of ProXR LLC, and I'm from St. Louis, Missouri. And I think entrepreneurial thinking is all about keeping your eye on the ball and then looking beyond.
Joining us today is Grady Phelan, a St. Louis-based serial entrepreneur. In 2013, Grady founded ProXR. ProXR has a new grip technology for bats as well as other sports equipment. We're so glad that you could join us. Thank you for being with us today.
Yes.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Awesome.
Yes. You are doing the better bat.
Yes.
Well done. Well done.
Yes.
So tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah. How did you get into this? Or tell us about your background first. Are you a St. Louis native?
Oh, goodness.
I am.
There you go.
Third generation.
Oh, wow.
My mom still has the same phone number that she had when she was a little
gosh.
girl in Webster Grove. So, yeah, we go way back in St.
Oh,
Louis.
my God.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So she had the numbers when they started with the letters, like,
Woodland, too.
yeah.
Long ago.
Wow.
Very cool.
Wow.
So, born and raised in St. Louis, Webster Groves, went to Webster High School.
Okay.
Played baseball in the Webster League, which is called SYB.
Oh, okay.
And then played in high school. And
So there's some connection to the sport. You played it.
absolutely.
Wow.
Absolutely.
Okay.
I love the game. Coached my sons.
Okay. Yeah.
So much fun.
And you started out, at least from a educational background, with a degree in fine arts and visual communications, and now
Yeah.
you're making ergonomically correct handles for baseball bats and hockey sticks and lacrosse sticks and all sorts of other things.
How did that happen?
Yeah.
So I think the whole process of being a creative is taught in school, especially with graphic design. You have to visualize, you have to think about spatial relationships. So it was almost a natural extension from going from being creative and art direction and graphic design and then product development and then getting into other things. And part of the creative process is just a series of asking questions. Why? Why not? Why does?
Is that
What
why
if
you
and how can and all of that.
Exactly.
So why did you choose fine arts? Because you love graphic I mean, that's really an interesting fine arts and visual communications. How in the hell did you fall into that?
I started out in business at Tulsa University for 2 years, and it became clear I started making my money in college doing T-shirt and sweatshirt designs.
There you go. The entrepreneur.
Yeah, exactly. I was always taught to follow your passion, follow what you're happy doing, and the rest will come. So I think being a creative and art director and having that background has given me a great deal of an advantage over a lot of other entrepreneurs because I'm able to create my branding, my graphics, logo, print. I know all about print, web development, all that. So the case here today has got all our graphics.
So you
wrapped on
saved
the
yourself
outside.
a ton of money.
Correct.
That's really interesting. So when you finished your degree, what was your first job? What did you do?
Well, I sold sweaters at Famous Bar.
Awesome. Whatever it takes to pay the bills.
That's
Exactly.
right. That's right.
I got a job with Merritt's,
Okay.
Motivation, doing incentive programs, graphics, logos, pamphlets, paper,
Okay.
all that stuff. So did that. And then I was there for about 8 or 9 years and then wanted to continue to grow. So I went into the agency side of business. I went with a company called the Whalen Company and was there for 4 years and then left that and went into the education side for a while and taught at a postgraduate advertising school in Atlanta called Portfolio Center.
Oh, wow.
So then came back to St. Louis and worked at Checkmark, did product development launch for Ralston Purina, and then went from there to a division of American Express, a joint venture, and did card product development.
So you've played in a lot of different industries. Wow. So how did you get to where you are today with the Pro XR? Is that your first? What's the name of the company?
ProXR LLC.
Okay.
So the name ProXR.
Yeah. What does that mean?
Well, it meant prototype for extreme response. And it was also, it also allowed me to get a five-letter domain.
Oh, awesome. The marketer. He was
Yes.
like,
Dude, ProXR, how can I make that work? So that's how that came
Very
about.
cool.
That's how that came about. It really means nothing, but now it's professional extreme response is how it worked out.
And when did you start that? How long ago?
So in 2003, I accidentally threw a baseball bat that nearly hit my son.
ooh.
Oh.
It was in our backyard. I was coaching the boys, and it was part of a routine of getting the boys to clean up the backyard. We had these hickory nuts, and so we'd pile them up over the week, and then on Saturdays, we'd fungo them, and then we toss it up and you hit it out. So we were hitting the little hickory nuts out of the backyard with little aluminum bats, and I'm left-handed. I'm facing him as I'm facing you. And as I swung, it flew out of my hand and I had a huge mark on my palm. And it reminded me of high school and college.
Gosh.
Did some research and realized that I'm plenty strong enough not to throw a bat, and realized that the knob had forced me to do that. And I just wanted to come up with a better grip.
So your son was not injured in that?
No, I'll tell you what, it was actually fear, because the barrel of the bat went within inches of his head.
Wow.
And the bat went 30 yards in distance. If you see thrown bats in baseball games, they go way out into the crowd.
Yeah. So you realized you had no control over that. It had nothing to do about how strong you were or how whether you were trying to do that or not. It was all about the design of the bat.
Correct.
So we have thanks to Grady, we have a traditional baseball bat here in the studio.
A wood bat.
These are all wood bats. So the knob, as you can tell, it sticks out perpendicular to the central axis of the bat. And when the relationship changes, it acts like a speed bump to your hand, and it crushes core grip structures within the hand. So as a part of the process, how did I get here? A lot of it was learning anatomy of the hand and the physiology, kinesiology, ergonomics, all those pieces that come together that helped me work through the process of probably 50 different iterations of handles and grips and things like that.
Yeah. One of them in the case is got like these grooves where your fingers would go, right? Kind of like molded to the hand. And then for both your top hand and your bottom hand. And that was an early prototype, right?
Correct. And the reason I brought this is so you could see this is what started. I wanted to come up with a better way to grip.
Right.
But what's interesting is, as I did research, MLB rules state that it has to be a smooth, round stick. Therefore, this wouldn't be. But what I did take away from this was this little notch right here, because I had taken a clay mold of my grip, and this was a part of it.
So you had essentially one of your first prototypes put an indentation on the knob on the baseball bat.
That's correct.
And is that fair game in terms of regulation? The bat itself has to be smooth, but the knob can be otherwise?
Well, yeah. And actually, we kind of set the standard for that. When I submitted the bats to Major League Baseball, they said, no, we're probably not going to approve it. But when they put it on the table, it has to roll smooth like this.
So no interruptions, and it just needs to be able to go.
Right. And
yours does.
Oh, wow.
So when we're rolling the bats on the floor here, for those of you who can't see it through the internet. Interestingly, that's how they determined that it was legal.
Oh, okay.
And that was the first.
That's amazing.
So essentially, this is the first major design change allowed by Major League Baseball in 135 years.
Wow.
Holy crud.
How long did it take you to go from the original bat to your design? How many months of research?
3 years.
3 years.
So prototyping, and my neighbors will attest to the fact that I'm out there painting bats at 3 a.m. and sanding crazy neighbor across the street.
They love you. Okay.
But essentially, 3 years went from having all sorts of things that kind of sort of allowed you to mimic how the hand might want to move to you just changed the position of the knob.
Yeah.
The knob itself is still round.
Correct.
Which is why it can roll, but it's now at an angle relative to the bat.
Well, it looks like it's a little more oval at the bottom, isn't it?
No, it's perfectly round.
It's perfectly round. Yeah.
So it's
when you look at it dead on.
Yeah, you can see.
So what's cool is it's based on how far your wrist moves towards your pinky side.
Okay.
So that angle matches it. So then when you grip it cradles the palm.
So in 3 years, how do you maintain... All right, I get it. You're scared. You almost hit the kid in the head. Your hand hurts.
You almost got divorced because if you hit the kid in the head, the mother would come.
Right. But I'm thinking after a week... I'm like, I better just make sure the kids stand farther away from me, right? You know what I mean? I think I might have just let that bone go after a while. But you're like, no, not only am I not going to let the bone go, but I'm going to figure this out. And I'm going to get Major League Baseball to approve it.
Right. So,
and invest in the research, just the medical research, understanding, anatomy, positioning, all of that. That's really interesting.
You go through this process of observe, assess, reconsider.
Right.
And you just, it's like a cycle in the wash. It just keeps going and going and going. And so then you get more ideas. Well, how do I prove that? How do I show that? So
your natural curiosity is actually what propelled you.
Absolutely. Again, I think that gets back to the core foundation of being creative and being taught how to think creatively and you can never look at something and think, you know what, that's it. That's the way it's going to be. So it's taken this long because there's so much history and tradition that baseball is beholden to.
Yeah.
And so when I first rolled this out, I didn't show anybody. I followed the rules. I got my IP
Right.
applied for. And you asked a question earlier, why did I stay with it? It was a matter of, I kept seeing things as research would go. I would learn that, wow, no one's done that. And hey, no one's done that. No one's done that. So it was a process of almost slow motion dominoes dropping. So the day we got the patent IP was a week later, we got approval from MLB.
Wow.
Yeah, it was, the timing was uncanny.
So you had been keeping them in the loop all along.
No, not until I pretty much knew what their response was going to be. So I also, through the research, I also did almost case study about patents and what had been denied and why, and getting to the point where you could say, okay, I can be an authority. I can speak to this because I know you've done this, this, and this.
Right.
And that was simply to make the case to MLB.
Right.
That's correct.
Wow.
That's correct. And just prior to that, we started showing it to some bat companies, Louisville Slugger, Rawlings, Marucci, et cetera. And the response was, we've already tried that. You'll never get a player to use it. You'll never get MLB to approve it. We've already seen this. All
Thanks
these
so
excuses.
much.
Yeah, you can't make that. So there were so many hurdles that in essence became my to-do list. So, all right, let's get Major League Baseball to approve it. And then let's try and get players to use it. And
you are absolutely doing what we always talk about. You're getting your customer input and you're using that feedback to further the development of your product, right?
You're also persevering in the odds of some pretty well-established. I mean, if they didn't want it to happen, it wouldn't have happened, right?
Right.
And today, Colton Wong, among others, is using the bat in regulation play, and
Colton is killing it. That was a whole nother process of getting the bat in front of players and putting it in their hands. I have to say that I was only able to go so far by myself making wood bats.
Sure.
We formed an alliance with this company called Old Hickory. Old Hickory is one of the premier bat companies in Major League Baseball.
Oh, wow.
They make bats for Mike Trout, Paul Goldschmidt, JD Martinez, Juan Soto. So the best hitters are using Old Hickory.
Nice.
So I was able to bring new technology to them that was patented and approved by Major League Baseball.
Oh, wow.
So when we were able to have that combination of new technology with a well-known craftsman that make these bats, that was a game changer. And that's when Matt Adams first saw it this past October, and he started swinging it.
So how did you get that alliance with Old Hickory? I mean, you as a new entrepreneur in this space, how did you gain that?
That's a great question. And I think it had to do with, I started writing papers and blogs and writing content and got my social media up and running and connecting with people on LinkedIn and basically aggregating all the contact points that I could, kind of becoming an authority on this broken hamate issue that you addressed earlier. And then the flip was that we were able to also show that there was a performance improvement. So the players weren't necessarily...
That always does a big deal.
That's huge. That was huge. And it's interesting that the performance improvement, the data on the performance improvements came with some early sensor technologies, but most recently came when we were at a company here in St. Louis called Rapsodo. They're the gold standard for measuring exit speed, ball, spin, rate, all that. They're in Brentwood. So we were in their cages. Matt Adams got in with our bat after taking a couple rounds with his, and all of his numbers went up. His exit velocity went up. His spin rates went more consistent. And the other players who were in the cage were like, really? Let me try that.
That's sort of like getting one of those swimsuits that makes a really fast swimmer even swim faster, right?
True.
I mean, it's the technology of the tool that's being used.
See, I thought you were going to say
talent.
Make you look better.
Well, I think it makes you look better, but I'm just thinking like that same, right? Like you could redesign a swimsuit and say it gets you faster, but if it doesn't actually shave time off, it doesn't really matter, right? And this could be a great, if it could feel great in your hand and might make your grip feel better at the end, but if it doesn't actually make the ball go farther or faster,
exactly,
what have you?
Yeah.
Wow.
So you didn't change anything about the bat except for the grip, and it shows increased efficiency, or
correct. So a conventional knob acts like a speed bump when a player makes contact and they roll their hands over the knob.
It slows it down.
It crushes that palm of the heel of their hand as they roll through. So with ours, it cradles a greater surface area. They get more leverage and control on the bat and drive through with more authority.
Wow.
So you started with bats, but you actually have a lot more in your product line. So when we come back, I want to talk more about that.
CET, the Center for Emerging Technologies, is a proud founding sponsor of the Entrepreneurially Thinking podcast. We want you to know about all the great resources they provide, including the Square One Ignite and Bootcamp programs, as well as the online startup toolkit. The toolkit has videos, articles, and other materials to help you build your business. For more information about CET's programs, visit CETSTL.com. And for your renewed and continued support, CET, we say thank you.
My name is Eddie Davis. I'm the president and executive director of the Center for the Acceleration of African American Business. Entrepreneurship, I think, is a means of achieving your dream. And if you have a passion and you have a dream, I would encourage everyone to dream big and then pursue that dream with a passion. Thinking like an entrepreneur.
So you have developed this new technology that we've been talking about, it showing up in baseball bats, but the grips happen all the time in sports. You're gripping a hockey stick, a lacrosse stick, other sticks involved. Like we hit a lot of things with balls.
Golf clubs.
We hit a lot of balls with different sticks, right?
Yep.
So where else does this technology show up these days?
So what we discovered was that there was some commonality between all stick swinging sports.
Okay.
And that is that your hand has to cross over the central axis of the stick. So if you picture yourself rounding through on a golf swing, you make contact and your hand has to roll past the central axis. What we found additionally was that the same place in the glove for all these athletes and all those sports wear out in the same place. And that's right here. It's an area of the hand called the hypothenar.
It's the soft, fleshy part of your hand.
That's correct.
Right by below your pinky.
Opposite your thumb.
And that is so true, because when you go play golf and you get tired, it's right in there.
Yep.
There you go.
Because that's when I go sit down. I'm like, okay, I'm on the beer. I'm on the golf cart doing beer.
Oh, that's awesome.
So the interesting thing was that broken hamate bones, there's a bone in there and that under that soft part that also snaps upon compression. Golfers also tend to break that hamate bone when they swing a golf club.
Wow.
So consistent injuries, consistent wear and tear on the hand, consistent wear and tear on the equipment led us to, again, that ongoing curiosity of, okay, look, what are we looking at? How are we assessing it? And how can we expand that into other potential? And so that's how we've kind of leapfrogged from one product to the next. And then through that process, we've done prototyping on all those other sports, and as well as we have IP for all of that's currently in the works. So the one iteration of developing a baseball bat has, again, the slow motion domino effect of creating more and more product. Each one of those has its own projected pathway getting us to some point of...
Now, are you partnering with other, like you did with Old Hickory? Are you partnering with other makers like in golf? Or are you guys just coming out with your own line of products?
So we launched our own line of the inserts for hockey sticks called the Torch. And the Torch basically is sized to fit the 3 different core sizes of hockey sticks. So we've got little kid sizes in middle school and then senior and NHL size.
So you can pop the handles off?
Well, there are no handles in hockey.
Right, because
they
they're
tape
stick.
them. Yeah,
Oh,
they're hollow stick.
okay.
So it's a hollow carbon fiber stick. And so the kids put this in there. A lot of kids will tape their stick various ways, but you'll hear parents complain about having to buy gloves for their kids 3 or 4 times a year. And it's all because of that going over the central axis. So this actually increases surface area engagement between the hand, gives them more leverage. And we have kids in the NCAA, Division I. It's one of the top 5 teams in the country. They're defensemen going from a 92-mile-an-hour slap shot up to 102, 103 mile an hour on their slap shot from the blue line. So there's this consistent performance increase.
That means nothing to me.
Faster means better.
That's good. From the blue line, I'm like, okay.
Hey, it's good. Just not in
the red
smile.
line.
What we found is that there's this almost this consistent mathematical performance improvement,
right?
Like 5 to 10%, 3 to 8 miles an hour. We were just in the golf range yesterday at Forest Park with one of our prototype golf clubs, and the guy was crushing it.
Wow.
And so when you could talk about value proposition, it's a straight up performance value proposition.
It is. The value proposition is different depending on the market that we're talking to. If it's the athlete purely, it's performance. If it's the parent, it's little Johnny's not going to injure their hand.
Safety.
They're not going to throw their bat. They're not going to throw their club. If it's
And they'll get that scholarship
Yes,
to
exactly
the
right.
university.
Exactly.
Performance.
if it's a sports agent, team owner, it's your players are going to stay healthy. They're not going to get injured. They're going to perform better. You're going to have a better product on your field.
Absolutely.
And you're going to be more profitable as an organization.
That's the bottom line.
All right.
People will come to see those balls being swung out the
As a
stadium.
park.
Yeah.
I mean, Colton Wong hit 2 home runs on opening day against Milwaukee with using our bat.
So what was that like?
Oh.
What was watching that happen like?
So we were in the office. My office is in Kirkwood. We're in this little basement, this little space, and we've got the monitor going, and we're watching MLB TV, and we're working away. And Colton Wong's up, and sure enough, he stepped up with our bat and saying, "Oh, cool, we're watching," and he crushes a home run.
Wow.
We're like little children.
Was that our bat? Was that our bat?
Yeah, was that our bat? But then we're like dancing around the office, jumping up and down, hitting our head on the ceiling. I mean, it was
You all should get
insane.
that tape and put it as a marketing tool. You know?
Major League Baseball is so sticky about using any images of players.
Yeah,
and
but the proof is in the pudding, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, sure.
Anybody who wants to know what he hit that home
They
run
can
with
always
will
look
know
right.
what
Yep.
he hit that home run with. But you mentioned also earlier that you've got a lot of IP in play. So clearly what started out as curiosity and an insatiable curiosity is now a product line in at least a minimum of 4 or 5 sports.
Correct.
And then we're looking at both amateur and professional markets because you mentioned mom and dad. So
Correct.
we know that there's a lot of demand there.
Yep.
And you would think that once you see Colton Wong hit a home run on opening day with your bat, well, like you're done, right? Like
No.
we've hit the top, right? But this is really just the beginning. You started in 2003 and you're really still just ramping up.
It's the 14-year overnight success.
I love it. But that's a really important thing for our listeners to remember
Exactly.
is that,
True.
it would seem like Colton Wong equals success. And yet it does to a degree, but you're still now just starting your own manufacturing activities
Right.
in addition to your partnerships.
Right.
You're still raising capital.
Oh, yeah.
You're still looking to build the business and you're still carrying prototypes around to
For
make
next
sure
stuff.
that people understand this, right? You don't
Exactly.
have a marketing crew per se that's
Right.
out there
No.
doing all of that stuff for you.
I do everything.
So one of the key things you talked about is capital. Yeah. How did you start off your whole capital raise?
Well, I self-funded.
Especially when you're doing testing and everything else. So you started self-funding?
I self-funded from 2003 to about 2014.
Okay.
Were you also working full time still?
I was
then?
working full-time.
Yeah, we talk about that too because we're
Yeah.
always like,
Don't quit
13-year overnight success
Right.
requires that you have other streams of income.
Right.
Oh, we hope.
And my wife was fortunately had a great job, and she was covering healthcare and all that, which is a big deal.
Spouses
So,
are a wonderful part of an equation for an entrepreneur.
Most entrepreneurs would not if it weren't for the spouse who carried the stuff that you have to have, especially if you got kids and stuff. You know, that pesky thing is insurance and food. You know.
so I just want to say thank you, Jill. I love you.
Thank you,
You're
Jill.
awesome.
That's
You're
great.
awesome. Wouldn't be here.
So raising money, when you decided
Yeah.
it was actually time, what does that look like? Because by then this was like your baby for years.
Sure.
And so knowing you need to raise money and also bringing in other people to share in part of the dream.
That's been a challenge, but at the same time, it's a connection. You have to do that business plan, and it has to be pretty bulletproof. But the thing is, you can't let the business plan sit on the shelf.
Right.
So it's a living document.
Absolutely.
And so every time we had a new raise or every time we had a new new person, I was always ahead of where our business plan was saying we need to be. But at the same time, you're in this grind of, I'm developing product, I'm marketing, I'm selling, I'm connecting. I have to go out and raise money.
Right,
I have to and it's so interesting how the connections happen. Baseball is a relatively small community when you look at it. Everybody knows someone else. I happen to know the hitting coach or the head coach of baseball at WashU. Went there. There's an older guy taking swings in the cages with the younger players. I'm like, oh, that guy's a older player. And he's one of the professors that was working out for Cardinals fantasy camp.
Oh.
And turns out he wound up being our big investor.
Wow.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And
You
it's
never know
awesome.
where you're going to meet that
Yeah,
person.
absolutely.
No, and he tried the bat. He saw the bats laying there. He's like, "What is that?" And he was curious and started swinging it. And then 15 years later, 10 years later, he decided, you know what, I'm going to invest.
Wow.
And, then those kind of connections beget others, and the word spreads about. So he also happened to play baseball. He also plays hockey. Other baseball players hear about it. Other hockey players hear about it. And pretty soon you've got people saying, hey, can you come make a pitch? Can you, talk to us?
What's some of the best advice that your investors gave to you or feedback?
Well, the observation was this is so unique from anything else that's out in the market in terms of things that people are investing in, because it's actually something you can hold in your hand.
It's not an app.
It's not an app. It's not programming. It's not a biomedical thing that's going to be
20 years in the
20 years in the
making.
making. Exactly. It's here, and I can hold it in my hand, and then we can show performance. So one of the things I suppose that that I picked up from years of those guys with the investors, but would be hire smarter people than you, and always bring on people who know stuff that you can't possibly handle. So we brought in one of our investors, a professional golfer, Jay Williamson from here in St. Louis. So they bring all sorts of new insight and new connections.
I was going to say new connections. That's key. Yeah,
it is. It is.
Wow.
What are you most excited about? You're a number of years in at this point, and you've put in a hard grind already, and you probably still have a bit of grind ahead of you. What excites you about it now? What continues to spark your curiosity?
Well, it's the performance. It's the fact that all of a sudden we've paired with Old Hickory. We've got this new relationship, and now I have a whole bunch of major leaguers knowing about it, picking up and swinging it. We've got players with the Red Sox, the White Sox, the Pirates, the Braves, the Phillies. So we've got all these guys ordering and seeing it.
That's great.
So I think we're at a real tipping point. And the excitement is this has all been a ramp up to another ramp up. So we're at that hockey stick phase, where we come here. And I think we're right at that bend where we're going to start to accelerate. And then, we're going to have to bring on more capital,
right?
Because we're going to have to expand into other manufacturing, other relationships. We need more marketing. I do everything. Right. So I need to bring on some smart people to help. Yeah, we need some people.
We need some people.
I'm glad you said that and I didn't say that.
But it's true. I mean, at this point, it's a numbers game from a lot of different perspectives, right? It's a money numbers game. It's a manpower, woman power numbers game.
Exactly.
It's a not only manufacturing, but fulfillment. And, everybody says they want the Walmart contract, right? Well,
no, you don't.
Right. You don't want the Walmart contract, but you also, the equivalent is the MLB and the NHL and, the I guess whatever the golf is. I don't know enough acronyms to know, but right. If everybody starts knocking on the door at the same time, it's both a blessing and a curse.
Correct. Yeah. It can be 1,000 paper cuts kind
something
of thing.
Like that. Exactly. But it's exciting to know that you're at that bend, right? That tipping point is really interesting.
It's really fun right now. We're just having so much fun. It's easy to get up in the morning and go.
See, that's
work
the best
till 3 in the morning.
Yes.
Well, that's right, because you got a grind still ahead of you. So going in with energy is always a good thing. But
that's your passion when you're able to stay out in your garage, like you're saying, you're sanding at midnight. Now your neighbors might not like you, but
my wife didn't like all the sand and sawdust in the house either. Yeah. We're past that. We're out of the house.
Awesome. Well, and so I think you said it was the first innovation in baseball in 135 years.
Wow.
Correct.
So are there other industries you're looking to disrupt in the same way?
Sure. Golf could be a big change.
Yeah.
There are very strict rules there. I will tell you the thing about the baseball bat was that it was the first angle knob bat ever used in baseball history. It was used, by the way, you'll love this, in Chicago against the Cubs.
That made her very happy.
Yes, especially against the Cubs.
A guy named Mike Hessman with the Mets hit a double off the wall at Wrigley with our bat. His bats went to the Hall of Fame in Cooperstown.
Oh, wow.
So we've got bats. Our bats are the first angle knob bats ever used in baseball.
And I was going to say, you're a young entrepreneur, and your bat now is sitting in the Hall of Fame.
Right.
That's amazing.
Awesome.
Thank you for calling me young.
Of course. course.
So, any advice for other young entrepreneurs out there?
Yeah, start early. I'm
Slow
57.
and steady wins the race.
Indeed. It's really tough to start late. I'm 57, and my kids are both in New York City now, and going through high school and college with all them, and doing this at the same time. I would definitely think that if you can start your process early, do your due diligence, and run hard early as fast as you can. But for those of us who are my age, it's never too late. Right?
I was going to say, you know what? Sometimes there's seasons in all of our lives. So this is your season.
Absolutely.
You had other things to do beforehand. Now, I mean, you can concentrate on this because when you have kids at home, trust me, as my
it's not as easy.
No. Yes. My kid came home.
You're in the midst of your third startup?
Oh my God, yes. And Alan and I walked to the house on Sunday, and he was like, "You all do realize you have a kid at home, right? That has to eat."
Yes. Emphasis on the food. I understand.
Right. So
Indeed.
no, this is your season. This is great.
Fantastic.
Yes.
So if folks are interested in seeing the bat, owning the bat, or buying any of the other equipment for the other sports we talked about, where can they find you?
ProXR.com is our website. Old Hickory is oldhickorybats.com. They are the guys who are making our bats now.
Oh, wow.
And I'm getting out of the bat business manufacturing side, and we're handing that off to Old Hickory for now. So we've got an exclusive with them for the time being.
Well, that's really exciting. So, as we may have mentioned earlier, we're not sports aficionados, but I'm going to be looking for the angled bat whenever I'm watching a game now, because I feel like now we have a better appreciation for what it means to see that bat in play.
And if you guys are in Cooperstown, that's the best way to find and see the bat, right?
That's right. That's right.
You can go visit.
See, and I even knew Cooperstown.
I'm very impressed.
That's amazing.
That's awesome. Well, on that note, thank you so much for making time to be with us, and we're really excited to see your hockey stick take
You're welcome.
off.
Thank you very much. It was my pleasure.
Thank you.
Changing the way you view new ventures, unlocking your creativity and innovation, igniting your thinking about entrepreneurship. It's Entrepreneurially Thinking. Get connected and discover more. Visit entrepreneuriallythinking.com to listen to all your favorite episodes and learn more about our guests, hosts, and sponsors. Feeling inspired? Be sure to share your thoughts, questions, and stories in the comments section. And don't forget to leave us a 5-star rating on Apple Podcasts. The best way to show love is to share and subscribe. Let everybody know that you're entrepreneurially thinking.